So I'm going to tell you what the current state of technology is today, what our IT service providers are facing in the current state of technology, and the current trends as well. So what the trends, what the challenges are, and what Google Apps is and what it's doing to solve these challenges. So one important thing that we have to note is that we currently live and are dealing with a generation of consumer-driven people who are socially network connected. So, for example, all of you might have Facebook accounts. Tama ba? All of you have Facebook. Walang Facebook, hindi in. Di ba? So, lahat tayo may Facebook. Sometimes may Twitter. And for some people, even Google+. So, those trends, actually, we are living in a world where the generation is used to the internet. So these are some of the trends that we are seeing right now in business. So firstly, speed. Dati, and maybe this does not apply to people who are very young, but for people of my age, I used to be able to have the patience to wait for 5 minutes for a page to load. Tama mo ba? 5 minutes para mag-load yung page. Ang patient natin. Pero right now, hindi na uso yun. So speed is very, very important. Speed is a trend. So here, you can see that local motors can take a new car from concept to creation under 18 months. That's speed. The next thing is innovation. If your company is not innovating, may iwan ka. You lose your global competitiveness, you lose your competitive advantage. And the last thing is mobility. And because people are using smartphones, tablets, iPads, PCs, wala na ngayon masyadong PCs actually. In 2013, nakalagay dito Mary Meeker, pero I have this new research that I just read a week ago, that smartphone and tablet sales will exceed your PC, desktop, and notebook sales by next year. Probably by end of this year. So, I've seen a trend right now for most companies wherein they're now purchasing tablets for their enterprise. Dati hindi uso yun. You purchase a tablet, maybe personal, for yourself, afford mo, bumili ka ng tablet. But, if you can't afford it, your company will probably not provide one for you. But now, companies are actually providing their people these new devices, smartphone and tablets. Why? Kasi kahit saan ka magpunta, you are connected. So, right now, because of these trends, they're currently impacting your business and are creating certain challenges. So, what challenges are those? So, let's look at the inhibitors that are restricting our ability to adapt. So, some companies are used to legacy systems, and we understand why. We started work with Microsoft Exchange inside the office, probably Lotus Notes inside the office. That's the traditional way of dealing with our email and messaging and collaboration within the company. Tama? So, we're used to actually buying the servers. We're used to that. We're used to complex applications that are built for the business process and not for usability. So, ngayon, hindi na uso yun eh. Ease of use na yung kailangan. We have to have applications that are easy to use, easy to understand, so that business users are able to get the information that they need when they want it. And before, we were at least constrained with some rigid applications inside the office. Hindi natin mabitbit yung mga server, no? Hindi natin mabitbit yung mga pinabibili natin na napakadami. So difficult for IT companies now to move from that level of thinking to the new trends and innovations right now. And it's also very expensive. So here, you can see that medyo maliit lang siya, no? Pero $8 out of $10 spent in IT is dead money. Dead money. So it's not contributing to business change. It's not contributing to growth. It means that we are spending for something that we will not be able to use to innovate and to maybe contribute to new ideas, new products, and services for the company. So let's move. Another thing that we need to understand is a challenge that people are facing right now. We are a team-driven company. All of us may have branches in different places, people who are out there in sales. Paano tayo makita if we have salespeople who are inside the office. They have to be out there. And if they're out there, they have to be able to get the information that they need. And how do we provide that? We provide that by giving them a desktop solution. A desktop solution will require them to go back to the office, log in, get their stuff, go out again. When in fact, if we give them something that will enable them to get that information on the go, then that will potentially help us. So, mahirap pa doon, we work with teams. We have managers who are working with people, teams of 5, teams of 10, teams of 15, and they have to collaborate. So, let's try to look at collaborating like it's 1999. Diba? 1999. Parang mga panahon namin na rin mo dyan. So, let's say I'm married, I create version 1 of a document. So, I have a team, Jessie, Sally, Casey, and Rachel. I have a team of 4 people. And well, the normal way, the traditional way, is I will send this document over to these 4. So they will at least have their own allocated parts, no? So Jessie, this is the part I'm assigning to you, etc., etc. And so they spend maybe a day to create their allocated parts, whatever sections they need to do, and then they send it back to me. They send it back to me, even if I said, do not use your own naming convention. I have a standard naming convention for this file. Pero makulit. So they use Jessie Draft, Sally 01, diba? Casey Final, kanya-kanya. But it's so normal. Right? So what we do is, now I get my version 2.0 back, and maybe I spend a day to look at the revisions, to look at the sections that they made. I have to compile it all together to create the version 2.0. Siyempre, hindi pa rin ako sigurado, I send it back again. Now, I found si Rachel pala, hindi pala siya nag-send. No? So, nag-send siya, yun sa dulo. Because sometimes we have a team member na medyo mabagal ng konti, di ba? So, hindi naman, we can't have every single team member be sharp. Sometimes we don't have the sharpest pencil in the crayon box. So, they send whatever revision they have, they send it last. So, what do we have now? I am left with a document that I don't know what to do about. And if I look at can we go back? Ayan. And if you look at the number, the sheer number of duplicates of that document lying around inside the company, kung gaano kabigat yun. These are all going to be stored in their own PCs, possibly sa server, di ba? So maraming paggagamitan yan. Pero, ang collaboration namin is going to be very, very difficult. Collaboration is really, really hard. But it shouldn't be. So let's go back now to our other challenges. So, next. Sabi ko kanina, di ba, expensive. So I think we have a retail person here. We have somebody from logistics. We also have, Mr. Kat, you're also from retail, no? And merchandising. And in retail and merchandising, right now, the margins are actually getting thinner. The margins are getting lower. And what does it mean? It means that as much as possible, we have to conserve our dollars, our pesos, into IT spending that matters. IT spending that will help us move forward, that will help us create those new products and services. Not IT spending that will bog us down. So, looking at all of that, ito yung mga challenges natin. What can Google do? Now, Google is actually built from the web. It was born on the web. It was built for teams. It is what you would normally call 100% web. And currently, with all of these challenges that we see right now, Google is actually the only one that can solve all of these and still be device agnostic. So, it's delivered through the browser. No client required. I don't have to install anything. Every computer that we have, our cell phones, our tablets, they all have browsers. As long as you have a browser, you're good. It's scalable. It is Google, after all. And Google is a huge conglomerate. The other thing is we have a subscription model here. They're based on a model that means if you don't need it, don't pay for it. You only pay for what you use. So if, for example, this year, you only have a certain number of employees, and next year, let's say you downsize or you upsize, your company would have to then scale up or down depending on your needs. So you have to pay only for what you need. Another thing is it has access from any internet-enabled device. So what happens now is that if you're an iPad, iPhone, and Mac user, I know that there are some people who are extremely loyal to Apple. So they would buy all Apple, all things Apple. And the other thing is some people are extremely loyal to Windows and they will buy all things Windows. And some people are extremely loyal to open source. So they will have Linux on their machines. They will have Android on their phones. Alam na alam mo eh kung nasan yung loyalty. Tanungin mo lang kung ano yung phone. Pag iPhone, baka may Mac pa sa bahay. Diba? Kapag naka-BlackBerry, most likely in-issue ng company, tsaka matanda na raw. Ayun, sabi na, BlackBerry ako. Kaya ako lagi niloloko. Sabi nila, it comes with age. Pero what happens is that, whatever device you use, you'll have access to your work. And I'm not just saying email. You'll have access to your documents. You'll have access to your sites. You'll have access to your videos, your photos, or company photos. So all of those things you'll have access to in whatever device you're using. And there are no upgrades required. Alam naman natin, when we buy a legacy system, like Microsoft system, I'm not scared to say Microsoft, no? We hate it. I'm a Google person, so I hate it. I personally say that that if you buy a legacy system nowadays with access anywhere, you're going to be bogged down. So the upgrades are going to be paid, number one. And the upgrades are going to probably be, and most likely, withheld from you until 3 years from now. So you will buy a legacy system that you will be using for 3 years, and then after 3 years, you will have to upgrade it to a new version. So ganon. With Google Apps, wala nang upgrade na required. Everything is built from 100% web. Apps are built on 100% web. It's a platform for your apps. It means that you can build your apps on the web with no hardware required. Another thing is your devices. You can sync your devices all on the web. So you can take it anywhere. Probably I'll be working on my PC while I'm at work. And then all of a sudden, I get a call. I have to go outside. But what happens to the work that I leave on my PC? I take it with me. I take it with me wherever I go. So let's move to the next slide, please. Okay. So, diba kanina we have 3 challenges, major challenges. And now we have 3 key differentiators. What differentiates Google Apps from the rest of the messaging and collaboration applications out there? The first is global teamwork. Like I said a while ago, aside from being built on the web, aside from being born on the web, it was also built for teams. It was built so that people from different parts of the world could be able to work together, could be able to collaborate. So this global teamwork is so ingrained and inherent in Google Apps that it's the only application right now that can offer in-document collaboration. What is in-document collaboration? It means that you can have 20 people all working on the same document at the same time. One version. So that's what it means to have global teamwork. Another thing is mobility and productivity. Like I said, kanina, diba? I work on my PC and then I take my work with me. So if I get an email, I can get it outside. All of a sudden, somebody says, Ma'am Mary, kailangan ko ipa-approve. May kailangan kang tingnan. Wala ako sa office eh. I'm currently in Cebu. So ano gagawin ko? Wala ako sa office. So I have to have at least webmail, di ba? So I have to find some companies, VPN connection, maraming iba-ibang ways to do it. But actually, the simplest way to do it is to open my phone and to check the document from there. That is the simplest way of doing it. To actually edit it from my mobile phone and to send my approval from my phone. I don't have to worry about whether I'm going to Singapore or if I'm going, if I'm going to Maldives or wala yung boss ko dito. Nagpapanilig ako. Another thing is we liberate resources and IT cost reduction. What does it mean? It means that when we buy IT resources, at least for messaging and collaboration, a lot of our money is spent on buying that hardware. A lot of it is spent on actually buying the hardware that will house the software, and then we will have to buy the licenses, individual licenses for each of our users. And then we have to buy the upgrades as well. And of course, we have to pay for the annual maintenance cost. So all of these, pag pinagsama-sama mo, should have given you mobility. Should have given you access anywhere. Should have given you global teamwork. Pero bakit hindi? Because they were not built 100% on the web. Next slide please. So, Google is actually uniquely positioned to deliver this vision. So, I'm not sure if it was mentioned a while ago, but Orange and Bronze is a Google Apps and Google Enterprise partner. So we partner with Google here in the Philippines so that we can help companies to migrate from their existing legacy system to Google Apps. Sometimes actually meron silang system that is not legacy. It can be a Yahoo small business, it can be a web-hosted mail system, but somehow they want more. And when they want more, Google is able to deliver that. Why? It has a web user base of hundreds of millions of online users. And those hundreds of millions of online users actually contribute to its testing, to its learning. Natututo siya. It learns from all of these users. And the learning that Google derives from all of these consumers is applied to the subscribing users of Google Apps. So if you're subscribing to Google Apps for Business, you know that the software is tested. It is so thoroughly tested. I have hundreds of millions of testers all over the world. Before siya pumasok sa Google Apps for Business, lumabas muna yan. Na-testing muna yan. Lumabas yan sa public. Probably bugs came out. They were able to fix it. But they will not give it to Google Apps until it has been thoroughly tested. Another thing is scalability. I have 10 people now. I have 10 employees now. Kung may negosyo. So next year, 100 na yung tao ko. Nagkaroon ako na investor. It enabled me to expand my business more. And now I have 500 users. And after 6 months, maybe 1,000. That is actually what happened to Pointwest, which is what Raymond is going to be representing later. Is what happened to them is they scaled so fast that if they had a legacy system, they would have had to buy hardware resources to match that scale, to match the scaling that's happening to them. And with Google Apps, scalability is not an issue because currently, if you are servicing hundreds of millions of users, then if a company scales from 1 to 10,000 in a day, it's not an issue. You add the user. That's all you have. The only thing that you're going to worry about is how much it's going to cost you to actually subscribe 10,000 users. But other than that, you don't have to worry that the system is going to suddenly bog down. Suddenly may downtime. Just because you went from 1 to 10,000. It's not going to be a problem. Another thing is the patches are deployed in hours. The upgrades are automatic. You don't have to wait for 3 years for the new version. So the Google Apps for Business version that you are using is the same Google Apps version that Google is using. So rest assured that it's good because they're using it. Sabi nga nila, they're eating their own dog food. That's what Google is saying. We're eating our own dog food. 30,000+ users of Google are using Google Apps. And of course, if they're able to service themselves, their own company, and they can also service other people's needs. Another thing is engineering excellence. I'm not sure if all of you, most of you coming from IT, probably know that it's so difficult to get into Google. They have this rigorous question and answer portion. Mahirap yung questions. It tests you, it tests how you think, and it's very, very difficult to get in. A lot of people, they actually want to get into Google just to test themselves kung kaya nilang bumasa dun sa interview, tsaka kung kaya nilang bumasa dun sa test. They're engineers, and it's so funny because at data centers of Google, there is, I think it looks like a military compound. I'm not sure if we have a video to show later, but maybe on our one-on-ones we can probably send it to you. Because the data centers look like military compounds. May mga security with guns and all. May barbed wire around the area. Ganun ka-secure yung lugar. And they're also one of the top 3 people who are creators of servers. They manufacture servers, but they don't sell it. That's weird. You're one of the top 3 people, manufacture servers, but they don't sell it. Why? Because they create their own. Ganun sila, ayaw na bumili. They want to manufacture their own servers. It's custom, I don't know how you describe it, Zach, custom Linux hardened, I think that's what you call it, no?
They actually have their own version of Linux.
They have their on version of Linux.
Ubuntu.
Oh, diba? They have their own Ubuntu. They have their own version of Linux. Ganun sila ka-sigurista. They want to make sure that security is embedded in Google Apps. So, ano ba yung Google Apps? Kanina pa ako Google Apps ng Google Apps dito. Baka naman yung mga tao, iniisip mo yung Google Apps na yan. Diba? Alam ko lang sa Google, Gmail lang, tsaka search. Ano ba yung Google Apps na yan? So, these are the set of apps that are available. The core apps, actually. A lot more applications are going to be made available to you, and it's up to you whether you would like to activate them or not. But these are the core applications that you can use. So firstly, you will have a huge inbox. When I say huge, I'm not exaggerating. It's 25 gig per user. So 25 gig per user. So you don't have to delete any email. All you have to do is archive. You can keep all your email. I know that I worked for a company before that only gave me 100 MB of ang sakalap ng buhay ko, 100 MB of email. Because of that 100 MB, and my job requires me not to delete anything. My job before was compliance. So that means even the read receipts I cannot delete because I need them for audits. And what happens? 100 MB every day, almost every day I get this message, your mailbox is over its size limit. Sana gagawin ko? Kailangan ko mag-archive, mag-delete, gagawin ko lahat para ma-receive ko lang yung mga email. So some of my colleagues would tell me, Mary, pag-email na ako sa'yo, hindi mo ba nare-receive? I didn't receive it because my mailbox is over its size limit. Tinamad ako maglinis ng araw na yun. So difficult. And that's the current challenge that we are facing right now for some of our companies. But Gmail, with its huge inbox, and currently we are using 10 gig right now for a free Gmail. From 7 gig and 10 gig sila last May. Now we have 25 gig. Wala nang delete. Hindi ko na kailangan problemahin yun. Another thing is thought. So some people, they love Yahoo. Because that's YM. So, sabi nila, hindi ko mapapalitan ng YM ko. Because it has file sharing. Lahat ng tao naka-YM. But the nice thing about Google Apps is if you want to keep your chat within the organization, then you can have a business class IM that you can actually turn off. We have a customer, right, Phoebe, who didn't want chat, actually. It's available, but he didn't want it kasi hindi niya raw nakikita ng mata sa mata yung mga empleyado. That's kind of important to him. But if you are the kind of company that has people everywhere, you have salespeople in other places, you have offices, branches, you have factories, you have warehouses, you have different branches everywhere, what do? You might want to just chat it out. You just might want to just chat with somebody instead of calling them. Possible in a meeting. Pag chinat mo, pero receive pa rin sa phone if you like. Basta may internet. Another thing with chat is that it's not just chat. It's not just IM. It's also voice chatting or calling. You can call your colleagues, so it acts like your IP or something. Ano man tawag doon? VoIP, parang gano'n. So you can call them, computer to computer na lang, or you can video call them. So kung maayos naman yung bandwidth nyo, you can video call them. Hindi kayo masaya na chinachat lang. Kailangan yung makita talaga na nagsasabi siya ng totoo. What do? You video chat. Okay? Another thing is groups. So you have departments. So definitely, you have a sales department, a marketing department, you will have your accounting department. All these departments make up a group. And these groups have files, they have certain documents that they cannot share with any other member of the company. And if that's the case, the groups would let your users discuss, would let your users share within their own team. Another thing is calendar, no? So calendar is the usual calendar that we have. The difference though is that I can see the calendar of everybody in the org. And it will help me find a time for a meeting. So if I have 18 regional managers, for example, and I have to have those 18 regional managers meet up every month, and it's so difficult for me to find a time for them to meet. Ang hirap. Google Apps will help you find a time. All you have to do is click on find a time. Ganun kadali. When you're in calendar, you have find a time there. And as long as you enter all of the people, and all of the people's calendars are shared with you, it will be able to find the time that is right for your meeting. The other thing is, you don't have to set a meeting with somebody when you know that he or she is currently busy. Because you can see their calendar eh. You can see that they're busy. So why will you set a meeting on that day? So you already know. You don't have to waste your time verifying. So that's one thing that you would have with calendar. And by the way, this is something that a lot of people may not know. May free SMS yung calendar. Tinetext ka ni Google. So sometimes, I might not have access to internet. I might be using a talk and text phone. Isang simpleng blue Nokia, tawag ko Blueberry. So isang government agency, namigay sila ng mga talk and text na Nokia. Dahil kulay blue, ang tawag nila Blueberry. So, example, yun lang yung phone na dala-dala ko. It doesn't have internet, doesn't have a browser. What will happen now to my appointments? What it will do is it will text me if somebody invited me for a meeting. It will text me if somebody updated that meeting. Let's say, ay nagbago pala ng conference room. Nagbago pala ng time. It will text me if somebody canceled the meeting. So I don't have to kind of waste my time looking at my calendar again, checking it again and again. It will notify me by SMS, and that's free. Kasama pa rin yun dun sa service. Another thing is Docs. Actually, Docs is now being transformed slowly to Drive. Those people who, I think Raymond, when you started out, you were at Docs at that time. By the time we finished migration, you were already doing Drive. So what does that mean? What am I talking about? Docs has 1 gig of space per user. 1 gigabyte of space for them to store their documents online. It means that when they store their documents, they have not, at the time, converted it into a Google document. Because like I said before, Google has its own office, if you will. It has its own document version of documents, presentation. So welcome po. Please take a seat, Ms. Rio. Okay, long time no see, ma'am. Ayan, so, what we have actually with docs is that you will have a collaboration or collaborative office. And this office application can be used even if you don't have an app that you will install in your machine. You'll be able to access these office applications via the browser. Browser lang ang kailangan nyo. Actually, para pag nag-Google Apps kayo, you will find more often than not that you only need a browser. So another thing is, with docs, in-document collaboration is actually built in. What it means is that when you have in-document collaboration, all of your teams, all the members of your teams are able to work on documents all together at the same time. At nakikita mo kung nasan sila, anong ginawa nila, anong inedit nila, kailan nila inedit, nasan sila ng time na yun. Binuksan nila. Meron silang binago. You can always go back to the revision history. And the revision history is very comprehensive. So when you look at revision history, you can go back to a previous revision. You can review. Ano ba nangyari dito? Bakit nasira itong document na to? Sino ba sumira nito? So go back to the revisions and you will find out. Meron kang ebidensya. So that gives you the evidence as well as the discussion history, no? What is Google Cloud Connect? Google Cloud Connect is your connection to Microsoft Office. I know that some of us, we are Office babies. Nabuhay tayo sa Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Pag walang Word, Excel, PowerPoint, hindi ko kayang gumawa ng document. Hindi ko kayang gumawa ng spreadsheet pag wala akong Excel. Hindi ko kayang gumawa ng presentation pag wala akong PowerPoint. So if you are part of that Office generation and you have already invested in Microsoft Office, alam naman natin mahal siya. Mahal ang Office. So pag bibili ka ng Office, sayang naman yung license mo. Nabili mo na. So what do? You install Google Cloud Connect, a very small plug-in that you install. It attaches itself to your Office documents. So what it does is while you're working in your Word, PowerPoint, or Excel, it gets synced to the cloud. It gets synced to your Google Docs. Ganun siya. So even if I'm working in my office right now, and I'm using Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and bigla akong umalis, and I have to access those documents, nakasync na siya sa Google Docs, okay? And of course, sites. Sites is your internet. It can be your internet site also, but I don't advise it. I advise that you have a different public website. Because primarily, sites works like SharePoint. You have an internet wherein you can share resources, you can share documents, you can discuss, you can do your announcement. It is a veritable internet site for teams or for your entire company. It can be a place for your HR to store their policies, store the forms that they need in order to maybe apply for a loan or maybe change their SSS, whatever records they have in HR. All of these things you can use via sites. And lastly, all of these are built with security in mind. So Google has what we call Postini, which is a security and compliance solution that allows you to still be the admin. So even if your mail, your collaboration tools are residing in the cloud, ikaw pa rin ang boss. You're still the one driving it. You're still the admin. So if you say, this user, ang kailangan lang niya, email lang. Tsaka chat. Talaga yun, in-include ko yung chat, diba? Email lang, kasi baka magreklamo eh. Malaman niya, yung iba may chat siya, wala. So, email lang, tsaka chat. What happens? Lahat ng yan, hindi available sa kanya. You can still do that. If I say, this person can only email internally, cannot email, must not be allowed to email outside of the company, pwede. If I'm a bank, and I say, these employees should never email a 16-digit string of numbers. Pwede yun. So, a 16-digit string of numbers, as we all know, is a credit card number. So what happens? If it tries to get out, it becomes quarantined. Pwedeng mag-bounce. Pwedeng quarantine. Pwedeng palusutin, pero ebidensya na yun, di ba? Na may ginawa siya. So all of these things you can do with the Postini Security and Compliance Solution. And then of course, what's in it it for you? Eh, ano naman, di ba? Kung meron kang tools. How are you gonna use these tools? What's in it for you? Anong meron sa'yo for that tool? Anong makukuha mo doon sa mga tools na yun? What benefits do you have? So the benefits that you have is that you're able to enjoy your seamless communication within your team members, within departments, in your company. You get a web-based communication hub. You get real-time collaboration tools. Also, what you also get is an increased collaboration and innovation in business. One example that I can tell you is that here, Telegraph Media Group said, mobile access increases productivity 2.8 times. Imagine what you get. Once you move to Google Apps, you will realize your increase in productivity by 30% actually within the time that you were using your legacy to the time that you move to Google Apps because of this kind of access. Another thing is your ROI is very apparent. Some people say, naku, magkano yung Exchange, magkano yung Lotus Notes, magkano yung Google Apps. We can't measure it apples to apples really. We can't measure it by a hardware cost or software cost. We don't just measure it on that. We also measure it on the high level of productivity that your employees actually get when they are using something as innovative as Google Apps. What else do we get? We are able to simplify how we manage the desktop fleet. Alam naman natin, if we have a lot of applications that we install and upgrade, ano gagawin natin sa schedule natin yan? What if I have 500 employees and I have to schedule the install on all of their desktops, so all of them have to be upgraded for this software? I don't have to do that. Simplifies patches. Ito nga sabi nga nila, it's a joke within Google actually, but it's a joke at Microsoft's expense. Microsoft released 124 security patches in 2010. In 2010, Google released the same number in feature advancements. 124 feature advancements in 2010 versus 124 patches. Because every other week, you get something new. People don't like to wait for things that are new. You get something new in Google Apps every other week, and you'll be surprised. It surprises you. Wow, may bago na naman. You don't have to wait for these new innovations. So next is, you actually simplify how you build and manage your IT solution. So imagine, gaya na sinabi ko kanina, you're able to manage your desktop fleet because it's highly scalable. Now, you don't have to worry. Pag sinabi ng management na, mag-hire kami ngayon, we will hire 180 new people. Diba? Pwedeng ganun eh. We will hire maybe 500 people in the next 4 months. What happens? IT starts to think, anong gagawin ko dun sa 500 na yun? Paano ko ngayon gagawin ng paraan yan? Magkano yung mga PC nila? Magkano yung... All of those things, you have to add it up. And then of course, the software licenses that you have to install on the PCs or the machines that you will provide. But with Google Apps, it's one less thing to worry about. What happens is, since it's highly scalable, within 6 hours, you're already provisioned with your additional 180 users or additional 500 users or what have you. Kung ilan man yun, like I said kanina, 1 to 10,000 if you will. Another thing that you will see here is that Google Apps is not only an application. For Lotus Notes users, I think Ms. Ria, you're a Lotus Notes user. Lotus Notes is also a platform to develop applications. You can deploy applications quickly in Lotus Notes. So can you in Google Apps. Google Apps is built with, we have an App Engine platform for app platform as a service called the Google App Engine. And we have the Apps Marketplace. The Apps Marketplace is a haven for our developers, so like us, we are a Java development company. What we can do is we can create those small apps that we can plug into Google Apps. For example, in your case, if you're building your workflows in your Lotus Notes, you can do the same in Google Apps. That's actually a key differentiator because now your workflows and your apps can run on the cloud, and it can run using the same same sign-on that you have with Google Apps. And of course, kung hindi pa kayo masaya dun sa list na yon, just visit the apps marketplace. There's so many apps there that you can choose from. A lot of them are free, and you can easily plug and play these apps. Just add it to your current Google Apps subscription. So, alam niyo naman, every product company has its own boasting slide. So, may sariling yabang slide. I call this my yabang slide. 4 million businesses have gone Google. 5,000 signups every day. Some of these companies are as big as BBVA, which is 100,000 employees. And dun sa mga taong nanonood ng MBA, BBVA is the official bank of the MBA. They have 100,000 employees scattered all over the globe. And they chose to go Google. So if a bank as big as that, with very high security and compliance measures, are able to trust something in the cloud like Google Apps, then definitely this is a product to trust. Another thing is, of course, Johnson Diversey. You can see Motorola there, Genentech, Virgin America. Here in the Philippines, hindi ko ba nilagay yung Philippines slide, no? Hindi ko ba siya nilalagay? We have, of course, Pointwest with over 800 employees na, 800 users now. Kung kayo nanonood ng GMA News TV dyan, GMA News TV is also using Google Apps now. Some government agencies. So, Phoebe is there at the back. She's also an enterprise sales consultant of Orange and Bronze, and she's in charge of Google Apps. She's our Google girl, kumbaga. And she has helped companies like, of course, the Department of Finance to move to Google Apps. And it's a big thing for us, because if the Department of Finance trusts Google Apps and trusts us to actually move them from Lotus Notes to Google Apps, then this is the way to go. Actually, hindi pa expired yung Lotus Notes sila. Naka 8.5 sila. And they still chose to move. There. So here, for meaningful customer success, if you think about it, it differs, no? Depending on the kind of company that you are, the kind of problems you want to solve. But as far as messaging and collaboration goes, these are what some of the companies are saying. They say they saved us, Google Apps saved us millions of dollars. Even a company like Roberto Cavalli, they said it saved us 40,000 euros. 40,000 euros is not small money. And now they're actually, Roberto Cavalli is now able to, mga girls, pero boys wala no, hindi na alam si Roberto Cavalli. O yung mga girls naman nakakaalam, Roberto Cavalli is a high-end fashion designer, haute couture. And what he does is, he designs these clothes and he has these very nice high-end boutiques. So ginagamit niya yung Google Apps to do what? He's streaming his videos. Eh, alam niyo yung mga runway videos? Hindi yung pinapanood ng mga girls. Again, mga girls ang nanonood. Yung mga runway videos, yan. Sinestream nila yan dun sa mga stores. And what are they using to do that? They're using Google Apps. They're streaming it real time via Google Apps. Another thing is, Avago Technology said it cost them 1/6 of what the Exchange or the previous Microsoft Exchange environment cost them. Okay? And basically, actually, Jaguar and Land Rover, so Tata, alam natin ang Jaguar, Land Rover, Indian company na ngayon, di ba? But hindi pa bumababa yung presyo nila. But they switched their entire global organization to Google Apps. Imagine that. So, these are companies that we know. We know this brand. And for some reason, some people can't believe na yung Google Apps ba yan, okay ba yan? Well, if Jaguar trusted it, I trust it. So, now the question that I have for you is very, very simple, no? It's a very simple question. Where do you want to start your journey to 100% web? Where do you want to start it? Because you can. It's already here. It's not a thing of the past anymore. So, if you want to start it, ayun na si Phoebe. Tawagin niyo lang si Phoebe. Si Phoebe talaga. Ayun na si Phoebe. Tumayo mo naman, Phoebe. Baka magpakilala ka naman sa lahat. Ayan o. Palakpakan natin si Phoebe. Ayan. Alright, so thank you very much again. I hope you enjoy your breakfast. Marami pong